Alrighty, another day, another chapter. I've lost track of when this one's coming out and when I'm recording it and time travel and I don't know. Okay, so yeah, next one in the Fubsy-verse, A quick thank you to the T5 peeps. Bob the Dragon, Data Magnet, Cat Crab Lobster, Dark Machine, Estrella the Dreamer, Messick, Fudic Yol, and Casper Arnholtz. Thank you very much. Let's get her done. It's all about the Linmads, Part 2, Team Players. Linmads are make for great team members, whether your team is an expedition team, a diplomatic team, or a trading team. They are easy to get along with, don't struggle for leadership positions, and take orders well. They aren't just support personnel and shouldn't be treated as lackeys. They are creative thinkers, though they may be a little more timid than other species and require a gentle hand when they are on your team. Diviak Review of Ontological Species Studies, all about Linmads, Team Players, published by Glass and Steel, all about Linmads, translation engine 3.1415. The quarters were quite nice, and because it was originally designed for a troll group, there were 9 rooms for the 6 of them. Admittedly, the 9 rooms were small, but since they were for sleeping, no one really cared. One of the refresher rooms had been retrofitted with a rejuvenation pod for the rifts, and the main room was well suited as a gathering area for the 6 of them and Fubsy. Fubsy immediately tried to grab a small ottoman and make off with it, but was spoiled by the magnetic feet that kept it attached to the floor in case of gravity failure. If there's anything missing, or something that you would like changed, Darrow said to the team, let me know before the meeting tonight. As liaison, it is my job to get that fixed for you. Once they were unpacked and barely settled in, the door rang for attention. Tariff was still unpacking his knives, but was closest to the door, so opened it, not paying attention to the boning knife that he had in his hand. While certainly not the biggest knife he owned, it probably still looked impressive to the Cree standing on the other side of the door. She didn't bat an eye, though, and said, Captain's compliments. He asked me to let you know that we dress for dinner here on board the Nonsuch. If you don't have clothes suitable for this evening meal, you can requisition them before 8 bells. Dress for dinner? Nate said. Did he think that we were going naked? I think, Tara said, they want us to dress in a fancy dress. Everybody looked towards the Cree, who smiled. Her tail twitched. Yes, that is correct. Fancy dress. You may see some examples visible in the ship logs. Tara thanked her gravely, and then closed the door. As soon as it was shut, everyone grabbed their compat and looked at the pictures for dinner in the ship's logs. If, I have to eat in my room the entire trip, Zoe said, I'm okay with that, as long as I don't have to wear that in public. Neref leaned over to see what Zoe was looking at. As dresses go, it was probably fine. It was yellow and purple, so Neref was sure that Zoe wasn't objecting to the color. It did seem to have an excessive amount of ruffles that cascaded down the front of the dress, over the hands and down to the floor. Well, you could wear this. Nara showed Zoe the picture that she was looking at. The dress was very red, fit close to the body, and had a slit up one side that went from the floor to the wearer's hip bone. The man wearing it really looked good. Or, Zoe said, we could all go dressed like this. She flipped her compat over to show everyone a picture that she had found. A young person dressed all in black with black boots, a lace-up shirt, and a small cape over one shoulder, a mask, and a hat. No, not nearly as big as the Captain Rackham's hat had been. Nate looked up from whatever picture he'd been looking at, and judging from the look at his face, Narav didn't want to know. Nate gave an approving nod to Zoe's choice. Zoe, you know better than that. Capes are just asking for problems. Querif was already punching in his order, with Tariff waiting right behind him. Nate and Alan decided on an outfit like Zoe's, but with no mask, no hat, and no cape. Zoe decided to add gloves to the hat, mask, and cape she picked out for her outfit. I'm torn, Narav said. I want to dress like the team, but I also want a pretty yellow and purple dress, with maybe a few less ruffles, she added. Dress like the team for tonight, and then get your pretty dress for tomorrow, Alan advised her. Zoe made a choking noise. Dress like the team tonight, she said. Get a prettier dress for tomorrow, she corrected Alan. They made up quite a statement as a team, and Narav admired her boots in the mirror. I may keep those," she said, "instead of recycling them when the night is over." Tariff whipped up a dinner for Fubsy, who had moved onto the carnival Formula No. 2, and a large chew bone that he had ordered when picking out his outfit. "Hopefully," he said, "this will keep her distracted enough to not notice that we're gone for a while." Nerif's alarm went off with an unusual sound. Nate snickered. "What is funny about it?" Nerif asked. "I understand how it's unusual, but not what makes it funny." "It's funny," Alan said, "because it's a ship's bell, and Nate has an everlasting love for things pirate." When they walked into the dining hall, a few people were still filing in, but Captain Rackham was already seated at the head of the table. Evidently, his flair for the dramatic had extended to the dining hall. Nerif could see that he was decorated like pictures of sailing ships that Quirrell had read and reread as a nymphling. When Captain Rackham saw them, he stood up, spread out his arms, and said, "Welcome, guests!" The crew and the ship was dressed in fancy dress from a wide variety of eras and planets, but Captain Rackham was firmly dressed in the earths of the late 1600s. His hat, Nerif noticed, was different from the one he'd worn earlier in the day, and this one had no feather. "But where is your darling Fubsy?" Captain Rackham asked. "She's dining in our quarters tonight," Zoe said. "We were afraid she might go after featherhead hats during dinner, and that's always awkward." "I understand. In my youth, some friends and I visited one of your cat cafes. I am not sure Rio ever recovered from the event," Captain Rackham answered with gravity. "But please, sit, eat." Nerif flicked through all the ways the cat could damage someone and sat down at the place with her name on it, before asking, "Your friend, Rio, what happened to him?" The captain paused, a mouthful of food inhabiting his answer, and then swallowed before saying he decided to give up his career as a ship engine designer and become a cat cafe owner. He ate another bite and then said, "Last I heard, he had a chain of them on Rylus 3. Dinner was not a quiet conversational meal that Nerif had come to expect from her previous expeditions. Captain Rackham seemed to favor singing loud songs about drinking that involved lots of slamming of the drinking cups on the table in set rhymes and tossing the glasses around. Nate, Quirrell, and Alan joined in gusto. Tariff was more interested in exploring the assortment of food on their plates. The food was good, but strange. Zoe, who was seated next to Nerif, leaned over and said, "I think our captain has a thing for Earth, the food, the decor, the songs." Once dinner was over, the captain had the desserts served. It was a dark cake with a creamy liquid poured over it and set on fire. Nerif picked up a cup, prepared to pour her drink on the fire, but Zoe stopped her. "It's fine, it'll burn out in a minute." After the flaming dessert, which was good but hot, the rest of the diners left the room, leaving only the captain's table still occupied. As the other people left the room, the lights grew dim around them, until finally only the captain's table was lit. He tapped his bracelet and a sound file started playing, but rather than music, it was the sound effect of a vessel on the ocean. Having been raised on an ocean world, Nerif knew the sounds well. "Now, here's the expedition you've been hired for," Captain Rackham said, his voice slightly lowered, as though someone might overhear the conversation. He handed each of them a team packet. Nate was the first to open his packet. He made a little gasp and said, "A treasure map!" Then he put his hand over his mouth to hide a smile, but there was no hiding the delight in his eyes. "We're going on a treasure hunt on a death world." End of chapter. And that, my friends, concludes this video. I hope that you enjoyed, and if you do, please consider supporting the author, even by popping over and leaving a thumbs up or a nice comment, just to show your appreciation for the story. However, if you wish to support this channel, there are links down below which will help immensely. I will see you all in the next one, and until then, I hope that you have a fantastic day. Cheers.